The Silence was directed by John R. Leonetti, who directed Mortal Kombat Annihilation and the Annabelle prequel. Not Annabelle Creation, the good Annabelle prequel, but no, the one that came out just to cash in on The Conjuring and was absolute dog shit and somehow tied into The Curse of La Llorona. Sorry, spoilers. And oh boy, as if that wasn't a bad enough 1-2 punch. Nothing against the director, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but those aren't two really good movies you want on your IMDb page. It was also written by the two guys that wrote Chernobyl Diaries. Fucking Christ, this is not a great team that you have behind this. Now, granted, they could actually be very talented writers. He could be a talented director. I don't fucking know. But, as if that wasn't bad enough, The Silence essentially is if you took the worst aspects of Bird Box, so all of Bird Box, except maybe the concept was a little bit decent, and you took the worst aspects of A Quiet Place, or at least ripped off the good stuff from A Quiet Place, and just made it absolute shit. This movie was fucking bad. And it's been out for a bit, so I apologize for the lateness of this review, but I did just watch I Am Mother, link up here, and also The Perfection, link up here, two Netflix original movies. And I thought, well, I've been hearing that The Silence is, I've been hearing a mixed response, even though I heard from quite a few people that I trust it was pretty shit. I go, well, look, I've been proven wrong before. I thought Annabelle Creation was going to be shit, and it turned out to be a whole lot of fun. So what the fuck? I'll watch this. I'm sorry, but when you have Stanley Tucci, who is a pretty good actor, and it's also got the girl that was in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that I still have to watch. And you got other people there. And Miranda Otto. It's got Miranda Otto from the Lord of the Rings movies and a whole bunch of other stuff. Miranda Otto, who's a pretty legit actor. Stanley Tucci, who's actually pretty legit. And it's Kierman Shipka. I always screw that name up, so I apologize if I didn't say that name correctly. But the girl from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Let me give you an idea of just the overlay of this. You know how they had creatures, and this is just going to be spoilers from here on out, just saying that right now. It's the same sightless yet silent creature types from A Quiet Place. And then it's also like Bird Box in the sense that, okay, you can look at these creatures, but yet the laws of physics and the laws and everything as far as sound, it's basically just a mashup of those two and the worst aspects of those two. And maybe even actually good aspects that were just put through the frickin' ringer and was just sent out. It's like, hey, A Quiet Place did well. Bird Box got a lot of attention, even though Bird Box was absolute dog shit. It fucking was. It went on forever. And Sandra Bullock, who I like, was not very good in it. But whatever, I don't know. I mean, I pretty much hated the fucking movie. But let's get back to The Silence. Because you notice that I'm kind of dancing around the whole thing and not talking that much about the plot of this. Because if you've seen both those movies, you've fucking seen this. Okay? You got people breaking a wall down in a cave that looks like you could just have a slight breeze go over. They pickaxe at it and it falls. You got this first-person camera thing. And these weird winged creatures suddenly attack them and everything. And oh, what's going on? These weird winged creatures that have been trapped down there essentially. Probably with the creatures from The Descent. Killing off a whole bunch of women that go cave diving. No, not like that. But if you've seen The Descent, you know what I'm talking about. No, you have these creatures that escape. It doesn't look like much more than I'd say about 1,000 to 2,000 escape. Now, I don't know because the camera work was absolute shit, meaning it was supposed to be like that. But then we flash forward to the character of Allie that is played by the girl from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, who is deaf, by the way, went deaf in a car accident. So the girl from A Quiet Place, the main actress, not Emily Blunt, but the main child actress, she was actually deaf. She was legit deaf, and that adds some realism to it. The actress here is not bad, but they're having her play a deaf person, so it's not even genuine, but whatever. It's called acting for a reason. That's another thing they ripped off from A Quiet Place. They didn't have the director, be like the dad from The Last of Us. That's why I call it A Quiet Place from The Last of Us in this, so that was fortunate. But if you saw my review of A Quiet Place, you'll know how I thought about it. And I actually really, really enjoyed it, even though it wasn't perfect. But let's get back to this. Okay, so you got these weird creatures that busted out of this cave and everything, and we cut to this family, and the deaf girl's being made fun of. Oh, she's got this boyfriend that's trying to learn sign language. So it's like unfriended dark web if the guy wasn't a douche, and if this was actually written by professional people. I'm sorry, whoever wrote Unfriended Dark Web, I don't know how many drafts they went through, but more than one would have helped. Fuck, this movie so fucking terrible. And I know I'm going off on a bit of a rant and a tangent here, but it's like just everything was so stock and cliche. So you got the family here. You got Stanley Tucci, the father, Miranda Otto, the mother, daughter Allie. They got the son with them. They got a big old Rottweiler. Well, guess which character ain't making it through that movie? Unfortunately, the most fleshed out character, the Rottweiler. That was something that actually disappointed me. But whatever, I sort of understood. Okay, so these creatures hunt by sound. All right. So suddenly, this weird stuff's happening. Life seems fine, everything. Okay, Allie's almost telling this narration of like, where were you when it happened? Here's where I was when it happened. So she's telling this narration like she's already safe and we're going backwards and seeing flashbacks, but we don't quite get that. And that's another thing that annoyed me with Bird Box, was the flashbacks, and it was kind of a little hard to figure it out. Mainly because I stopped giving a shit about the characters about 20 minutes in. With this one, again, and I mean, just ripping off both movies, so I'm pretty much going to spoil all three of them. And it's ripped off a bunch of other creature feature stuff and everything. And I want to say the creatures, whatever the fuck they're called, really, really fucking awful special effects. Now, granted, they may not have that much of a budget to work with. Maybe they just came up with some concept art really, really quickly. The special effects barely would have passed for the 90s. This is 2019. If you can't even come up with some decent ones, you shouldn't be doing it. It wasn't as bad as the special effects of Mercy Black, and sorry if anybody from Mercy Black happens to be watching this. The movie wasn't horrid, it just wasn't great. But, let's get back to the rest of the silence, because, yeah, it seems like I'm a bit scatterbrained. No, it's because this movie is so cliche and so wrapped up with everything else. It's every movie mashed up, besides those two that I mentioned, into another one. So you have the family there. They're in their house. They got Stanley Tucci's best friend that does some terrible acting later on that I'm going to get into. The typical stuff of like, oh, they're worried about the deaf daughter. She likes this boy, and this boy ends up actually factoring into their salvation a little bit later. No, not like that. There are religious nuts a little bit later. Oh, they're told once these creatures start attacking, and they're attacking the entire eastern seaboard, Pittsburgh, all that stuff and everything. And they're 20 miles outside of New York City, and I think north of New York City. New York City? No, not like that. Not the salsa commercial. But they're told all of a sudden, no, stay silent, stay in your house. Oh, they all know sign language, so they could do that. Stay in your house, stay safe, don't make noise, and you'll be fine. Okay, granted, the stuff with Bird Box and everything, okay, you can't look at the creatures, you can't do whatever, but okay. Stay in your house, and these winged creatures that are all over the fucking place can't get to you. What's the first fucking thing they do? Oh, hey, they're in the city isn't safe. Let's go head out in the woods like a bunch of fucking idiots. And that's what they fucking do. They fucking head out in the goddamn woods. It's fucking ridiculous. They go with their buddy, or his like best friend and everything. They're driving ahead on this, in this woodsy path. And this guy is supposed to be like, a gun-toting cracker nature survivalist or whatever. Ends up, swerving to avoid some deer, even though he could have just stopped easily, and rolls his car down the freaking gulch and whatever. And that's pretty fucking ridiculous. Everything seems fine, and then all of a sudden these creatures start attacking. They pick the weirdest times to attack. And not even the most inconvenient times. It's just, in every plot device afterwards, the grandmother that they bring along is a smoker. She starts coughing in the car a little bit later. So the creatures start attacking. So this rolled over vehicle has got the best friend where they can't get him out, and he's badly acting, he's doing that. And granted, I'm not going to say the acting's all that easy, but they should have had him do a couple more takes. Something. Because maybe this guy's actually a good actor, but that was just a bad sequence. They can't free him. They don't really try to free him or whatever. And he says, let me go. He gets his guns. They hand him his guns because he got about 80 guns there, but they only hand him one. And then he saves them by shooting a whole bunch of them. He ends up shooting like 10 of these creatures before he gets killed. These creatures go down with like one goddamn bullet. I know it makes noise, but for fuck's sake, put a silencer on and you probably could get to them. Okay, so they eventually abandon their vehicle because they can't start the vehicle because suddenly they figure that out. Oh, and the dog gets released because the dog keeps barking, so the dog runs off. I want to believe that the dog went out to get reinforcements and stuff like that and actually found the refuge. In fact, I'm going to believe that because the dog was the most fleshed out character in this goddamn movie. Can you tell I hated this? This might be my least favorite movie of the year. It might, I don't know, Velvet Buzzsaw is pretty shit. So this might be just above Velvet Buzzsaw. or it might, well, it'll probably be just around the Prodigy level. It was just really, everybody was doing stupid shit for the sake of doing stupid shit. And I know that's horror movie, psychological horror, monster horror movie, whatever, 101. Sometimes it makes sense. With this, it didn't make sense. It was shit. It was absolute fucking shit. It just was. The family eventually gets to this weird sanctuary place that's set up with lights, almost like in a quiet place. Good fucking God. And then the woman gets devoured. The stupid woman that has all this thing set up with all these things to make the sound, and maybe throw off the creatures and stuff like that. Oh wait, this is private property, and she suddenly gets killed with it. How did she survive this long? I know the apocalypse or whatever this thing is didn't start very recently, but you can't tell me this lady wasn't aware of shit going on. And then the family gets in there and everything. Well, they get through this one tunnel, but Miranda Otto's mother character, and she gets, not from I Am Mother, again, link up here if you'd like to check that out. She gets her leg gashed by one of these creatures. Maybe they carry an infection, this kind of stuff. They never really go into it. So the father and daughter character go into town, and a town that is literally just over the hill, apparently, because they get there within like 5 minutes. Like, just, it's absolutely unbelievable. They go within the day, get back, or they go and they get to this, pharmaceutical place, which, no, there's no toy rocket, so they're not ripping off the Quiet Place that much. But they keep seeing this weird guy staying on the hill, and he's clearly a preacher, and he's got a notepad and stuff like that. Well, it's like you find out a little bit later what happened. I'm just spoiling everything, by the way. I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. If you fucking care, too fucking bad. I warned you the spoilers were going to be happening. So they find the medicine, stuff like that, apparently. Well, the creatures are in there. So they light a mop, and then they, get the sprinklers, which apparently the sprinklers throw them off because there's so much noise. Well, the fire alarm and also. And then somehow the later it gets revealed that they don't like cold. So they got to head north, and maybe these creatures will adapt and all this stuff and whatever. But let's get back to that priest guy. He's writing down and saying, hey, he's writing down and saying, would you like to join our group called the Hushed? That sounds not so promising. There ain't no altar boys for the priest to touch, but anyway, we get to find out that the guy cut out his tongue. That way they can't speak, they can't make noise. Okay. I can't say it's the worst idea in the goddamn world, but maybe you could learn sign language so you could speak eventually when these creatures get killed. But that comes way, way too late in the movie, and it's like the humans in the bird box that look at the creatures and suddenly realize what they're doing, and they become kind of disciples of them. It's pretty much like that. And they besiege the house. They send a girl in that's got a whole bunch of cell phones that they apparently were just saving to set off the sound. Sound goes inevitably off. These creatures try to get in, and because they want to get the girl, they want to get, Allie, because Allie is fertile. They also have a blonde woman. They have a couple young women in their group that they could just do that stuff with, but whatever. I guess they need some fresh blood, apparently. And these creatures attack. This movie's like 90 minutes, by the way, and it feels like it takes about 8 hours. It is just bad. Eventually, what ends up happening is the preacher and his group get killed, which is quite frankly what should happen to all religious nut characters in movies, because it's a way to get out aggression. Because honestly, all the religious nuts in these movies are fucking annoying. Then they finally find the way to the refuge, which is in the mountains and in the snow. And then it's alluded to. Oh, Allie's like, well, can these creatures adapt, or will we adapt? And then it shows. I swear they're going to do a sequel. I swear they're going to. Oh, and apparently these creatures can lay eggs in humans and lay egg sacs and stuff like that and create more. That's something that they tease a little bit. It's almost like when they tease the whole thing with Godzilla having eggs and the Roland Emmerich, and at least I think that's how you pronounce it in the Godzilla 1998 movie. Yeah, this movie is absolute shit. F. It's a fucking F. It's a fucking F. It's fucking rotten. This movie should have never been made. And I could understand, because not every concept is necessarily original. You could do a whole bunch of stuff. You could do whatever. And have fun with it. You can have fun with cliches. Because cliches aren't bad. Like, the movie that I reviewed, The Perfection, it had cliches, but it was fun. I Am Mother, not necessarily great. But cliches made it but it didn't make it crap. the cliches here, it was frustrating because the characters were so one note and so stupid. Like, why didn't you just stay in your fucking house? Oh, eventually they would have been attacked. Or maybe not. The creatures could have eventually moved on. There weren't that many of them. There was this other scene earlier in the movie where once they got to the house, the father character turns on a wood chipper. And because of the noise, they all dive in there. About 100 of them dive in there. So just get a bunch of wood chippers, turn them on, and take care of it. That's what they should have fucking done. But I guess they didn't want to rip off Fargo anymore. Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, pull up there. Hated this movie. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.